Hello, here I am in my backyard here. Hopefully you can see my forest through the trees. And that's kind of the topic here today. It's bread and circuses. And I'll get into that here. I'm referring to a whole bunch of notes for a reason. Bread and circuses. It's a term used from ancient Rome, and it applies to government basically giving people food and entertainment. And in exchange, the people would become less and less concerned about their roles in society, less and less concerned about government policy, and more about the immediate moment and what events were going on right now only, and anything that only affected them right then at their day-to-day lives. I think that's important because as I look here on my notes, um, some things I took notes on. In the case of politics, this phrase is used to describe the creation of public approval um, through diversion, distraction, or mere satisfaction of the immediate, shallow requirements of the populace. So think about that for a moment. Isn't that kind of what government does every day? Politicians tend to be elected based, let me rephrase that, politicians tend to be preferred based on their ability to give to the public what the public wants. And there's a reason this is relevant here now, and I'm going to get into that in just a moment. We've got 140 BC, where politicians devised winning the votes of new citizens, giving out cheap food and entertainment called bread and circuses. That's where the term comes from. So let's look at this now. We've had some current events that I'm not going to take down the same path as you've heard discussed before. This is going to be different. But some current events here. We've had some shootings of kids. We've had a nation cry out against guns and against people with mental illness. We've had some natural disasters, and in every case, you've got people screaming that something needs to be done. Again, about an immediate issue, not a systemic problem, and I'll get into that. Let's go back a step. The Federal Reserve and politics in general over the last more than 100 years have produced policies of continuing to do something very, very important here. Number one is they will present a problem, okay? The problem will be presented to the masses in one way, shape, or form or another. And when the problem presents itself, two options are given for solutions. Either option will allow the agenda of whoever's in charge to continue with their plan, but the people will feel like they have selected a proper option and be happy and move on. The bread and circuses. You might look at that as being a little different, but I'll get into that in a moment here. With current events, with everybody screaming about the guns being at fault on one side of the fence politically, typically it's the liberal faction that decides that guns are bad. It's the conservative faction that decides it's the people that are bad. So each side is screaming. You've got 50% of the politics represented on both sides. Put them together, that's 100%, statistically. Well, they're both screaming for the solution, and government provided the problem because government provided it through mass media. Now, here's the other funny part. You've got the liberals that will complain Fox News is a conservative news channel and controlled by the conservatives. You've got the conservatives that will claim that news is liberal media. Both sides will claim that politics controls the media. They're right. And it controls it on both sides. So what's going on here? People continue to look at the sewer pipe and get the news and still believe what's going on and not realize it's all fed to them by government. Okay? So government created this issue. People scream about it and want a solution. And their two solutions are control the people or control the guns. Well, guess what, people? You got what you wanted. Here's what happened. H.R. 2076 just passed. What is H.R. 2076? Well, it was actually a response to these current events because in the last year or two, this has been sitting at the Senate not doing anything. Well, they chose this moment to vote on it based on current events. How surprising. What it does is it gives blanket martial law authority to federal troops. And it basically says anytime there's a potential mass shooting or mass shooting on public or private property, they're in charge with a tactical response. So that's your solution to the problem. because everybody decided they wanted an answer now. The bread is the solution. The government has provided a solution to the problem. People will now quiet down and be happy because the solution's implemented, even if it's a solution they didn't like or that they don't understand. The circuses, you got TV, you got news, you got computers, you got iPods, you got all the various technologies and computerizations and YouTube and all the rest. Let's face it, this society is operating on bread and circuses, entertainment, and whatever the government gives out for necessities of life. How many people are not on some sort of government aid or income? If the government continues to watch things decline with the economy and hand out food stamps, everybody's going to be standing in that line for food stamps. More bread. If the government were to give away iPods, everybody would line up for that. Did anybody ever find anything wrong with the fact that government took away broadcast TV and actually paid to give you a black box to watch TV? Anybody? So, that's where we are. And these are my thoughts on the current events. And I'm hoping this gets you angry, because it got me angry. It got me angry to understand I'm being manipulated. And all of you are being manipulated the same way. This is what's going on. And this is what's happening now. Is it all doom and gloom? Depends on your viewpoint. But the bottom line is this is what is. And, that takes it down another avenue. Emotions. Your emotions are being toyed with. You had people that were actually crying. And I don't put down the emotional reaction. Understand this. My complaint is not about the emotional reaction over kids being shot or outrage over guns being seized or anything like that. My issue is the scope of it. How many of you cry daily over people starving in Ethiopia? How about people being tortured or killed in China? How about what's going on in the Middle East? It seems a little bit problematic to me that a person would internalize what's going on in a school a number of miles away, or in a theater or a mall, and have a traumatic reaction to that, but not these other issues. A rational mind, keeping things in scope, would not do that. But a mind that's been manipulated by media and by processes beyond their control would actually change that viewpoint and have issues, have emotional responses. And I don't fault the person or people with the emotional responses. I understand that. But at the same time, it angers me because, you know what? Put this in scope. A lot of us out here have our own kids that have had traumas happen to them, and we still have to continue on with day-to-day life and keep our lives in scope, keep the child's life in context, and understand how the world around us operates. We don't get wrapped up in the trauma itself to the point of not being able to function. We have to continue to function. We don't then turn around and scream about the fact that we need to do something about this child that's been injured or something has happened, and we don't have these fantastic reactions. Those reactions are functions of media and programming, and that's why we have this HR 2076 that did pass. It's because the public got emotional. And, people, that's what they want. In fact, what else they want? They want you to get outraged about guns, okay? They want you to do that. In fact, if you want to see the hammer come down, rebel. Am I saying give up? No. Am I saying give in? No. I'm saying that it's desired, anticipated, and expected to have an armed response against the authorities. And guess what? YouTube is ripe with all kinds of people just cheering that on. The future is obvious for something like that. You can't win against nuclear or chemical devices. So just a thought there too. What's the purpose of the video? The purpose of the video is to point out bread and circuses as a term, as a function, and as a historical reference. It's been going on for over 2,000 years, folks, and the American people are puppets to it. So recognize this and break free of that, and you could get much further ahead if you do. So these are my thoughts. Don't necessarily look for conspiracy theories around every corner. I am one that believes that well, let's put it a different way. The definition of conspiracy is when more than one person agrees to do something where it's to the detriment or out of the knowing of the third. The problem is every business is a conspiracy by nature of management. Every operation is a conspiracy where there's more than 2 or 3 people. So to talk about conspiracy theory in a negative fashion is really kind of ridiculous. But there are conspiracies going on everywhere. Some of them are bad, some of them are good. And you can draw pieces of puzzles together and find little details that point to a bigger picture, and that's great. I'm not against that at all. I see patterns everywhere. But I do think that you need to keep some things in context here. We can look at all the things taking away guns. We can look at all the things that cause crime. We can look at all the problems with mental illness. But the bigger picture is everybody is screaming for a government reaction. That reaction creates a nanny state, or basically a socialist environment. And we're getting what we are calling for in this way. They don't have to come in and decide that they're going to create a socialist nation. We're asking for it. We ask for food stamps. We ask for Social Security, which I know is private funds, but the bottom line is government takes care of it. Why worry about Social Security if you put together your own retirement package on your own privately outside of government hands? Government is giving us what we're asking for, and over time we're asking for more. Don't let yourself get caught in that trap, because in the future you're not going to get it. If you get it, it's going to be at the price of your own independence. That's just the way it works. So I hope this has been informative, and I hope this has shed some light on things. Basically, if nothing else, this is a call to a rational mind. Don't let the forces in control of things get you distracted, get you emotional or irrational, and understand the system of things. It's your best tool for the future. So anyway, thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you hadn't already, and I'll talk to you next time. Thanks a lot.